much more powerful and effective. You can't just, this isn't a technical term, but you can't willy-nilly it. Just like you can't, you wouldn't, any part of your business model, you wouldn't just wing it, right? So why would you wing something that can drive business results?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talk series brought to you by AKFI Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. My name is Isabella. I'm the co-host here with Manuel, another co-host, the executive director at AKFI, and our special guest today, Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hello, how are you both?
Hi, Amy.
Very well. Good to see you. And thank you so much for being here. A little bit about Amy to our audience. Amy is the founder and the president of GreenLux. She's a renowned speaker and a leading expert in sustainable hospitality. And I'll let Amy to explain her idea and story behind the company, and quickly her company GreenLux approach to sustainable hospitality comes by way of a conservation mindset, bottom line driven results, and a value driven connection with stakeholders. Very well said, Amy, and I can't wait to hear the story behind the company and everything around what you're doing. To start our conversation, what are your thoughts on the current state of sustainability, ESG, and digital transformation in your industry, tourism area, sustainable future?
Well, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here. I think it's a really exciting time to be in the hospitality and tourism industry. We have a lot of threats, as every industry does, but I think there was so much positive progression and momentum that happened during COVID. And unfortunately, the hospitality and tourism took a major hit, but I think it was more proof that we really have to start making intentional movements and progress towards sustainability. So I really think it's top of mind. Your big hospitality leaders are implementing major infrastructure changes, operational changes, digital transformations. And I think as far as your other players, because there's so many hospitality players, it's definitely on their mind. It's just a matter of making it a priority. So I think we're going to see some incredible things happen over the next few years. The standards that have been created from the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, the World Travel and Trade Council, there's been some great standards. I think that this will really help guide these hospitality leaders and now implement instead of just talking about it. So I'm excited to be a part of it, grateful to be a part of it. It's one of my biggest passions. So I really hope that I can help make a difference.
So as you mentioned, Amy, thank you. As you mentioned, Amy, sustainability is starting to take the front seat in accommodations. The show a couple of months ago in Las Vegas, it was very clear that now companies, and I verified with some friends from the business side, companies are allocated a travel budget in dollars and the travel budget in carbon footprint. And the one that hinders actually the travel is the carbon footprint. People do not travel because they don't, once they take an airplane and they stay in a hotel a couple of days, their budget for a month or so is gone. So with this kind of sustainability movement taking place, and I think it takes place, but please confirm from, the econologists, and I'm not sure about Airbnb, to the most luxury hotels, and you travel a lot around the world. How do you see it? Do you have a one or two case studies? Can you share some with us?
Absolutely. I think there's some controversy out there, right? That we don't want to exclude anyone from being able to experience sustainability, and that we can't just couple it with luxury. And I completely agree. However, I do like this space a lot because I think you have a captive audience. And I think that it's actually to the contrary of what people say. I think that a lot of luxury travelers don't feel, I think that the people running the hotels are afraid that if there's sustainability attached to their name, then their customer doesn't define it as luxury. And I think that is really where we can make that mindset shift. We can show them that luxury is sustainability. And now possibly they can go home and take some different practices and implement them into their own lives. But, I think there are some incredible brands out there making the case for this. One Hotels, which is the fastest growing hotel brand in the world right now, their entire business model is built around sustainability. Six Senses, they are getting ready to build 25 hotels in North America. So we're traditionally, they've been a leader and really pioneers in that sustainable space. And the Fairmont hotels, whenever I go to a Fairmont, I am always so impressed with the conveyance from the employees to the customer. And I think that's when you can really hone in on that demand, because they have been trained and been taught to tell that story and take that customer on that journey with them. And to me, sustainability is really an extension of the customer service experience, because now you are bringing them in, you're developing more of a brand identity and a brand loyalty. And I think that's just so powerful.
And Amy, maybe one way to look is from inside out. So, did you notice, especially in the, I'm not sure about hotel brands, but I'm sure there are some brands which are not total luxury, right? But
Yes.
4 stars, 4.5 stars, and so on. Do you see a trend of having sustainability officers or sustainability managers that are actually in charge primarily with the sustainability branding, the sustainability operations, and so on? Have you seen a trend? Where are we with that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's still trickling down as hospitality is getting back on its feet. I think they are faced with the same thing they've always been faced with, which is resource, deficient, having so many things to do. But I think that is so incredibly important to have someone, to have a champion, whether it's a big enough organization to have an actual sustainability officer, or if it's someone that has that in addition to their everyday, duties. Finding someone that's interested in it and that wants to champion it is going to make your program that much more powerful and effective. You can't just, this isn't a technical term, but you can't willy-nilly it. Just like you can't, you wouldn't, any part of your business model, you wouldn't just wing it, right? So why would you wing something that can drive business results for your organization? So I think that's incredibly important, to identify those people in the organization, to follow through, communicate the progress, and identify hiccups so that when you then enter into another stage, you can make sure that you don't make those same mistakes.
Oh, very interesting. And I don't know if Isabella has a question at this point.
Oh, I'm a good listener. Please feel free, Manuel. Keep talking. I'll jump in as necessary. Excuse me, with my coughing voice.
So first thing, Amy, this is not unique to the industry. many companies are now in different industries, from consultancy to manufacturing industry, large manufacturing, multi-billion dollars companies. They all are on this course of trying to establish their sustainability programs. They sometimes over-optimistic in the way they present the program. Some call it greenwashing. But we see a trend that from stating the goals to executing the goals that is coming. And I think because your industry, because the travel industry, because the hospitality industry is so open to the public, there is not really hard barriers. All these people come into the hotels, come into the resorts to spend their time. So they'll bring the culture with them, even if it's maybe not moving as fast inside the hotels. And I don't know if you've seen anything like that, like really business customers, for instance, asking for sustainable accommodations. We mentioned earlier the carbon footprint.
Absolutely. I mean, the trend is there. I think the latest statistic from GBTA was that 54% of corporate companies are requiring that in their RFPs for business travel, that they are answering these sustainability questions. And so I think it's just as important from a recreation standpoint, as far as travel, that you make sure that, sustainability isn't a destination, it is a journey. And so whether you have taken it on, completed it, you are at least thinking about it, and you can you can answer those questions, at least if you haven't started, you're thinking about them. And the GBTA is such a great resource. You can find those documents on their website of exactly what those companies are asking for. So just as important as recreation, if your organization has large meetings and conferences, it is vital to your business that you are going to take this on. And I think that we still continue to look at sustainability as a silo, and it's not. It's if you integrate it into your business model, your business is just as it's more protected, it's more resilient, it makes more money, bottom line. So no pun intended, but I think we have to stop looking at it like an addition to or something else. It is all in one, and it can only benefit your business. It's never going to harm it.
So you made, and I want to bring forward 2 points. One, many times sustainability is considered a cost.
Yes.
And once it's a cost, and you mentioned a little bit at the beginning today, if they consider it a cost, it goes into cost controls, cost cutting, and so on. The CFO is very good at he or she is very good at that. I think you made a very clear point. Sustainability has to move to become a benefit, has to become a profit, has to become at least neutral in financial terms to be really implemented and embraced. But you brought also another interesting point, and luxury accommodations, or in general hotels, are also known for business centers, for conventions. Some of them are more conventions than hotels, really, in terms of space. So in that context, I can see how companies are coming and saying, look, we have this carbon footprint, net zero by 2025, and we have these elements. We cannot have our convention and next day an NGO comes and says, your carbon footprint exceeds your promise for savings. So did you see this kind of convention on the convention side of the hotels business?
Absolutely. I think that's why you're seeing many convention centers certify their buildings to LEED standards through USGBC. So again, not only does it make good business sense, because those large buildings use so many resources. Now you're saving money on your energy and your water and your waste, but now you can, make a quantifiable argument that you are taking on these initiatives. And I think that that's proof. Almost any big city you go into anymore, if you look hard enough for that lead symbol, you'll find it. I know Atlanta, Montreal, lots, many in California. So keep an eye out, because they definitely, and another great resource I thought I'd mention is True, which is United States Green Business Council's zero waste framework. You're seeing a lot of convention centers implement that for meetings and conventions. And that, again, is a great way to reduce your hauling costs. And again, a great way to show your customers that you are making the changes that you need to in order to be a sustainable organization.
Very interesting, actually, and sort of from my business life, I remember a lot of conventions on golf courses. I don't know how this will fare today's, because golf courses, of course, are depending on water, especially, right, and have a per carbon footprint by themselves. Before we moving a little bit more, and we'd like to ask you about the and I'll turn it to Isabella on this. How assuming you are CSO for a few days, where somebody should start in the taking a luxury chain from not having a sustainability plan to actually be ready to compete in that market that you describe, actually?
I don't want to downplay the urgency, because I think it's very important that this is a priority. But I also think one of the things that's hindering the market is confusion, and they think that they have to get up to speed right away. And I think it's about chunking it out and making sure that you are just making progress. And I think it's incredibly imperative to go back to the basics, review your mission statement, define your values. How can you integrate what's important to your company's vision to sustainable measures? So whether you use the UN SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that's an easy way to link some of those ideas with sustainability and your purpose as your company. And then once you have that, on paper, and everybody in your organization has agreed on that, it really allows you, that's going to drive everything. So whether I think important that is your first step. I think training really has to be your next step, because if your employees don't understand the importance to the organization, the importance to their job security, and the importance to the community as a whole, it is not going to be a successful endeavor. So I think those are the two most important steps, and then again, you pick one of those initiatives. I think you go all in on it, and you set some targets, some KPIs, some goals, and then you measure. And then it's an iterative process. You just continue to do that with everything. And again, then I think the beauty in that is then you will start to see your operations become more efficient. You will start to see your departments communicating with each other instead of siloing. So I think people underestimate the power of what that can do for a business as a whole. But I think if you start with those basics, and again, appoint someone, you're definitely on the right track, and it will make your progress easier.
And bringing the employees along, we talk a lot in sustainability about stakeholders. There are definitely after shareholders, there are the most major stakeholders. They put their livelihood and their daily work in this industry. So bringing them along, it's a great way to proceed, right? Because as you said, once becomes part of the culture, once it becomes part of the operations, is there to stay.
Absolutely. And then it's not an additional task, right?
It'll keep moving.
It's just natural. It's funny, when I worked on cruise ships, I was absolutely captivated by, we would have people that cruised more than they were on land. And the one thing I always was at these captains events, and, we engaged with the guests and as a loyalty, arm to the business. And the one thing they always said, there was one person, whether it was a restaurant, someone who worked in the restaurant or housekeeping or whatever it was, there was always one person that brought them back. And that I have really, that's drove a lot of my business practices when I'm dealing with hotels, because it, to me, was just proof the power of that human connection and that hospitality worker.
And I know Isabella is working, well, she published a book about AI and the future of the world. So you're bringing a very encouraging place for people. People are important, and at the level of one individual, that's really great. It's a great image, people coming back to business, not because of the brand, not because of the location, because of one person. That's
well, and the person is the brand, which again is, I think, the reason why starting with your people and training them and giving them a comprehensive understanding of what sustainability means to the organization and themselves and the community is why it's imperative for a successful endeavor.
Wow, thank you. Well, time is running very fast.
I talk too much.
No, you're not even close to talking too much, Amy.
You don't want us to do the talk, right? So I'm turning to Isabella for a last question, if I may.
Sure, my pleasure. Wonderful story of everything, Amy, about what you do and your vision on the future. And I think this is a work for not a couple of years, not decades, even for generations. And I see a lot of hope from the younger generations, Gen Z, millennials like me. They're much more aware on the topic of sustainability in general. They're just more aware. I haven't decode why yet, but that's my overall impression. So I think it will be helpful for you to give everyone some advice, especially those who wants to pursue a career in, let's say, a luxury hospitality, the future hotel sustainability. What would you say to them?
And I'm maybe reiterating some things I've already said, but I think in this day and age and moving forward, sustainability is everyone's job. And I think that making sure that you have a basic understanding and knowledge of it makes you just that much more marketable to an organization. So, and there are so many resources out there. I mean, it's endless. But I think maybe just versing yourself, even if that means you have to do it on your own time, and I'm not talking about hours and months, but giving yourself a basic understanding of how it helps a hospitality organization. Again, if you can convey that to a potential employer, as we move into this future, I think, again, you can set yourself apart. And if there's ever an opportunity to convey the importance to that organization, it may not happen right away, but I think they're going to remember that when they go to then implement those ideas that maybe you brought to them or ones that they've been thinking about. They're going to remember you and quite possibly come to you for help if that's what you want to do. So I just think having an understanding of really the impact that makes in your organization is incredibly powerful. And, one other thing I think is, even if your hospitality organization, let's say you work in hospitality, you're a manager, you work in F&B, housekeeping, even if you don't have solid sustainability initiatives in place, you can always talk about your local community. Everybody has uniqueness about their local community. That, to me, that's a way to engage your guests, and that's an element of sustainability. So I think you can talk about future plans that you have, but there's always an opportunity to engage a guest under the guise of sustainability if you understand what sustainability really means.
Thank
Hope
you.
I answered your question.
Absolutely. And it has us think a lot of thinking space. You have to process that in your own term. That's how I see your advice is. Yeah, it's not something 1, 2, 3. We need to understand and take it in our own term, our own timeline, and our own understanding. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hear a theme, which is education should come first, right? Even if you don't have a sustainability program in your hotel, in your chain, start by educating people so they can at least talk before they walk the talk, before they execute.
Absolutely. And I think that's how you lift people up and empower them, right? I mean, gosh, I'm not the first one to say that, that's for sure, but knowledge is power, and giving people more knowledge to have a discussion, to feel more important in your organization is what will keep them there longer. And again, that conveys to the guest every single time when someone enjoys their job and is proud of what they're doing.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. That was a powerful ending, and I hope everyone take some notes from today, whether in your heart or on your notebook. And thank you all for tuning in. Make sure joining us every week for a new episode of AKFI's Actionable ESG Talks series, where you can gain new perspectives on how to mitigate risk and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation. Until next week, bye for now. Bye, Wald. Bye, Amy.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye,
so
Amy.
much.
Bye, Isabella. Thank you. Thank you.